Go ahead.
Showtime. I call to order the regular Board of Education meeting on June 20, 2024 at 6:34 p.m. in the boardroom of Oak Park and River Course High School, and ask for a roll call, please.
Mr. Christian,
Here.
Dr. Maharaj,
Here.
Mr. Arkin, Ms. Williams Lee, Dr. Livingston,
Here.
Mr. Greenhorst,
Here.
and Mr. Costi.
Here. It has passed
3:51.
this afternoon.
Oh, correct.
Oh,
We are sitting in the smack dab of summer.
the summer rain is on my shoulders. Oh, poetic.
Sweet temperature.
Yes. Okay, with that, I move to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing whether the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district, or legal counsel for the district, and independent contractors and specific volunteers, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employer or against legal counsel of the district to determine its validity. However, a meeting to consider an increase in compensation to a specific employer of a public body that is subject to the Local Government Wage Increase Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and posted and held in accordance with this act. Collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees or the representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, and litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting.
Second.
And a roll call, please.
Dr. Maharaj,
Yes.
Mr. Christian,
Yes.
Mr. Greenhorst,
Present.
Dr. Livingston,
Yes.
Mr. Costi.
Yes. open session. And our first order of business are our introductory reports, starting with the superintendent's announcements.
Transition role here.
First ones for the summer.
First one for the summer and very brief. And no real new topics here, but in this setting, worth highlighting nonetheless. Number one, as you all are aware, huge congratulations to boys track, which is the first time since 1987 that the team has won the Class 3A state championship. In addition, the Huskies had 3 individual champions: senior Katie Gardner won the shot put, junior Caleb Schultz won the 100-meter dash, and junior Kwabene Oseiboy won the long jump. And as I hope you're all aware, Project 2 is now underway. The 100 block of Scoville has been narrowed to 1 lane with speed bumps, and there is no parking on the block at this point. However, the parking garage is still open and will remain available throughout the project. I want to get that message out as frequently as we can. Currently, most of the work being done is inside the building in preparation for demolition, which we anticipate will begin shortly after the 4th of July. And finally, at the end of, as we transition into July here, you will begin to see updates to our Project 2 dashboard on our website, where we are tracking expenditures against approved bid totals throughout the project. You can visit it on our facilities website. We also are in the process of putting up a time-lapse camera, and we'll post a link on our website when that is ready. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you very much. And we have our FOIA requests.
1 submission, 1 resolve.
Thank you very much. Our next event item is the public comments.
We have none for tonight.
We will move into our action agenda, and starting with the consent agenda. So are there any consent items that the board members would like to have pulled for discussion? I am pulling item B pending further discussion when we return into closed session. So we will vote on that one later. Any others that board members would like to have pulled for discussion? All right, with that said, I move to approve the consent items as follows. A, approval of the open and closed minutes of May 23rd and June 6, 2024, and a declaration that the audio tapes of the closed session minutes of September 2022 be destroyed. C, approval of the April 2024 financial reports as presented. D, approval of the April 2024 treasurer's report as presented. E, approval of the May and June 2024 check disbursements and financial resolutions, including the payroll resolution for July 2024. F, approval of the 2024-2025 contract with the various special educational service providers in the amounts outlined in the memo. G, approval of the Always Medical Carrier Contract Extension. H, approval of the intergovernmental agreement with West 40 for the Alternative Learning Opportunity Program. I, approval of Ms. Jacqueline Godwin, payroll coordinator, as an authorized agent for the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund. J, approval of the property casualty, liability, and workers' compensation and insurance renewal for the 2024-2025 school year. And that's it.
Second.
Second? Anyone?
Second.
Oh, thank you. May we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Williams-Lee.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Brisbane.
Yes.
Dr. Maharaj.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Costi.
Yes. And we have one action item. I move to approve the settlement agreement to resolve the Illinois Department of Human Rights claim brought by Lori McDonald.
Second.
Any discussion? A roll call, please.
Mr. Brinkhorst.
Yeah.
Ms. Williams Lee.
Yes.
Dr. Livingston.
Yes.
Dr. Memard.
Yes.
Mr. Richmond.
Yes.
And Mr. Costa.
Yes. Our next order of business is a 4-hour board governance discussion. Just, I ask you that you take your time because Chris Johnson really is looking to become a board governance aficionado. But out of respect for Ms. Johnson, I would like to move to the information agenda. And we have the student mental wellness supports board goals update that is as an informational item. Are there any questions or need of discussion on that topic? Which is why we have Ms. Johnson.
And also I'll add online, I believe Principal Parker is online. as well.
Yes, she is.
Good evening.
Okay. Any questions?
I have a comment.
Comment,
Is that appropriate?
questions and or comments, I think I said, but yes.
Well, Chris, I want to thank you for being here in the middle of the summer. I will be candid, I was one of the board members at the start of the school year, advocating strongly for the consideration of an ad hoc board committee on mental wellness. And felt strongly about the board's attention to that issue as when they elevated it in the school. And when I did that, I was not aware of so many of the things that were already in place, and so many of the efforts and activities by so many faculty and staff in this school. I just wanted to tell you about how much I admire the effort of you and your team. You are truly doing wonderful work. And I'll just, one example of I think a wonderful and innovative thing you've done just this school year is how the monthly lesson that you heard as every single faculty member, you touched every single student in the building for a period per month. You then followed up with reinforcement after that day. In doing that, you've normalized talking about and thinking about mental wellness across this entire school community in a really thoughtful way. And I just wanted to share how much I admire that. I am completely turned around. Clearly we're in good hands with you and your team and the work that you're doing on behalf of our students. And certainly we don't, I don't think that we need, an ad hoc committee or you've already elevated our work here. Having said that, I have two thoughts for you, two challenges for the coming year. One of them is around tracking. I know that we do an excellent job of tracking the activities that our students are engaged in. We do that formally. If they're an athlete, they're a member of the club, we know that, we have that information about that person. I think what we don't track nearly, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think what we don't track formally are the relationships with mentors, with faculty, with peers. I don't think that we aggregate that information, and those relationships are every bit as important as activities. And so I highly encourage, if we don't do that, I really encourage us to think hard about a rigorous tracking system so that we know every single student is attached to the school community in some way. We know how important that is for mental wellness, for academic performance, for school safety, and knowing that none of our students are slipping through the cracks and going through their 4 years here without that strong personal relationships of some sort, I think would be really useful. That's challenge number one. Challenge number two. We know that social media use is a great concern for our teenage cohort, that it is something that is causing a rise, or has caused for as long as it's been around, a rise in anxiety and depression. in trauma, and we see the results of social media use manifested within our four walls, even though that social media use is generally speaking not happening within these four walls, it's happening outside the school day, for the most part. And so we, it is a problem that is hard to address by just saying, don't do it during the school day. As far as I can tell, other high schools, there are a small number of high schools that have had some small amount of success in trying to encourage students to lessen or eliminate their social media use. The examples I've been able to find are small schools, they're private schools, and the examples inevitably feature student leaders. It's peer-to-peer persuasion around social media use, and in a small setting, student leaders can do that. They can convince the student body to do a certain thing, to limit, social media use on a day or a week or a certain platform. That may be difficult challenge or a more difficult challenge in a school our size, obviously. But I wonder if there aren't some things that we can do to at least make some impact. So that's my second challenge to you, is to think about that, to think about, and I know it's a huge challenge, but to think about if there are some things that we can do, some small efforts we can make to enlist our student leaders, to help convince their peers to maybe take a different path. Again, I really appreciate your work on this. Kudos to you for all your successes this year, and I appreciate your work.
Okay, Tim, I want to add to your points briefly. On the first one, in terms of this tracking, and it's a discussion, we talk about a student having a trusted, having some relationship. We talk about that with activity. I've always loved it. I mean, we are a school, and it's a, but students might have that relationship. They may have an activity through a church organization, through something outside of this building, and we don't need to worry about it being us that provides it. It's obviously as a school we are the provider, but I've always kind of voiced that we need to look at it bigger than that. So that's just my kind of counterpoint or expansion of yours. The second one relates to your comment on the social media, and it's more of a question. I mean, with the Surgeon General announcing that social media is what cigarettes were to us in our generation, is there an opportunity to leverage that in the context of what you said? Just it's quite astounding in my mind.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. I don't know. I mean, there's no reason, you don't have to respond to anything here on this point, but I will say that not directly social media related alone, but the cell phone policy that we currently have, those phone homes, is without a doubt a significant step in that direction. We've had a good number. I can't even tell you, I would say half a dozen at least school districts who have asked us for our resources, information for how we went about this, how do we implement, how did you do it so smoothly, how come you didn't get more kickback, all those types of things are things that we're hearing. So we're taking a step as a district with that. Now the question is social media use in general, and I think Tim, you mentioned earlier, I think this was in your earlier question, that you correctly identify the way to go at that is a peer-to-peer route. Adults in the building trying to limit that is just simply not the same language that the students speak here. So I appreciate the call, and I'm sure Chris does too. So
excellent. Okay. Graham.
Just very briefly, my twist on Tim's initial challenge is to just generally, right now you've provided us with a terrific inventory of programs. Maybe the next pass, apply a data lens to it. How many kids are availing themselves of which programs? Certain of these things, you're catching 100% of the freshmen on their initial intake. You have the ability to track things like, how much of the push activities versus the pull activities are yielding more students, like getting a sense of student counts that you're hitting. That'd be, I think, a great way to apply some data to the future iterations of this.
Okay. That concludes our informational report, and thank you again for making the track.
Thanks, Chris.
And we will now flip back to discussion of board governance Kopsky, is what it says here, so whatever. I have two items to discuss briefly. One is more of a process reminder, and that is that the board self-eval on super eval is out there and due, I believe, on the 1st of July. Okay. And as I've made note in the past, but will remind you, it is a New York biased report with a couple of the questions at the end. And I just say, put it in the context of Illinois and not the specifics of the New York regulation as best you can. So I would, we need to keep moving to that so that we can look at it. So I will just pause and ask if there's any questions on that. Okay, because that is really a lead into the second one, which is the scheduling and content of the board retreat. And I know, Lisa, you've put out the dates, and I don't know if we're getting close to any resolution on dates.
Should work. As you're talking.
Okay. And so while you're doing that, the question is, what is our expectation on what that scope is of that specific retreat? And I'll share, because the ISB rep has kind of given us a menu of opportunities. I think it was in the announcement. Okay.
Dr. Johnson did a great job of summarizing.
Yeah. And so when I'll kick it off and with my perspective, and I'm just looking for some consensus, because what will happen is we will meet with the rep and try to schedule. My perspective is the rep has a bunch of standard plays, and I don't want a standard play. Okay, that's me being me. Okay. I think when I look at it, we will have done our self-evaluation. So based on what the self-evaluation is, we will have a tool that will potentially point to anything that might need us to spend time on. That will be a data source to say, wait a second, we're all over the map on this thing or whatever. So that's the importance of doing the self-evaluation. If the self-evaluation, is clean and linear, then we can move on to not trying to bring ourselves together, but to bringing ourselves ahead. So I would say we wait for that to really determine that. Okay, that's piece one. The second piece is there's a program on governance, and my comment to Dr. Johnson is we've probably spent more time talking about governance than in this board year than I have in my dozen before. And so I think we have a good grasp of what we want to do and what board governance is, and we're plodding through it. So we can always get better and need help, but I don't think that's an area personally. I think we're doing that and don't need to put our time at that session to it, which leads me to what I would hope our time is really on board goals. And, you know, again, assuming assessment and evaluation is good, is that we use this time to really advance quickly on the board goals. Because if you've heard me say, I don't want to go and be in October and November talking about board goals. We need to get that hammered out. And you know, we did say when we reviewed our goals most recently that they're not 12-month goals. And so the intent is we can use that as a launching pad and start from there rather than starting from a clean slate. So my nomination would be to do that and say our primary focus is on goals pending the result of our evaluation. So I open it up to others to provide their insight of what they would want.
I like that plan, Tom. My only question is the best facilitator of that session somebody from ISBD or you know, different facilitator or somebody else like that when you choose to lead that conversation? I don't know.
My 2 cents on that is, first of all, I violently agree with everything you said, and in my response to the Google sheet, I basically said. A lot of the ISB cookie cutter stuff was for rookie boards or dysfunctional boards. We don't need that. What we need is a replacement for what we engaged Gil Herman for last year. And I haven't seen, so there's 2 things that sort of were like that among the choices. One was called board goals. The other one was something like tracking your goals with dad. So I don't know what the actual templates look like, but probably good enough is good enough. This ISB rep is ready to work with us as soon as August 8th, which 3 of us, I think, have weighed in already, saying that was a pretty good day. My suggestion is to go with the ISB facilitator to do exactly what you just described.
Or board
Yeah.
goals pending our evaluation.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if our evaluation, you know, that's the process, is if it shows that we've got to use it to our, you know, to our benefit. So, okay, that's good feedback, thank you. Others? Audrey?
Yeah, Tom, so very similar to Graham, when I put, I would like for it to build on our evaluation. So even if they have a program that is prepackaged, I want to make sure that whatever we do can be customized or at some point, you know, modified to be very much focused on the work that we've started.
Okay. Yeah, and that's clearly, you know, in meeting with the representative, right, is to make sure that beforehand we get that, and I'll tell you, I do have, that's gonna have to be us. I'm us driving that because the representative has a cookie cutter program.
Right, and we can, and I agree, Tom, we can drive at this to make sure there's openness to it, you know, that there's the ability to do that, right? I don't have any problem working with them to do it. I think there's some valuable things they bring, but I agree, it needs to be more bespoke, and that's something that's just cookie cutter.
And as board vice president, I would highly recommend that you join the board president with the superintendent to meet with this individual to, you know, get input and make it happen. So there's a pre-prep session, and that will have a couple eyes, and frankly, you know, if that prep session says we're going down the path of not in our way, we pull the plug. And
well, I would encourage you to ask the rep to show you the materials, the template materials.
Yeah.
So that you're not seeing them for the first time when we get to our session.
I agree.
perfect. Oh, you guys get better eyes. It's Mary Ann?
Yep. So this all sounds fine to me. I don't think I have anything substantive to add. I just wanted to let everyone know that my mother-in-law has entered hospice, so our summer dates are kind of unclear. I just don't know. So I may on short notice need to go to California at some point. So I will, if I do, if I can still join you via Zoom, I will, but yeah, I don't know. So
Sorry to hear that, Mary Ann.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Greg.
I have a request, and I'll say this again, whenever we are together talking about goals. I think that, but not only governance, but I think the board goals themselves this year were more comprehensive, more involved than I ever recall. Any boards I'd ever worked with before in any capacity as a school educator, much less here. And so as this board thinks about goals for next school year, I really encourage I encourage you all to do so with a real strong eye to alignment to commitments that we've already made. We have a strategic plan. There will likely be another round, probably building on the past, but another round of superintendent goals, of course, that will be part of that. And I say that not only because it makes practical sense, but I say it also because there were times, I think, throughout this year for our admin team and myself, where there was a feeling of being afraid. You know, we're just kind of spread thin with the amount of eyes on the different elements at this point, which is really neither here nor there. If that's the process we need to go through, feeling afraid itself is not the reason not to do something, but the pursuit of a logical approach to goals is. And so the more we can align, I think.
Okay. That covers what I had for governance. Does anyone have anything else in the governance arena? Okay. We have our reports. I will we'll just kind of click through if there's been any update or activity. And actually there is one of substance, so I will cover it. iGov. Marianne?
yep. So we covered at iGov was discussing the timing of various candidate workshops that iGov will be hosting. And that, we're planning on some prep for running stuff. I don't know that there's anything substantive here that I need to bring back to the board. It's going along smoothly.
Right. Second, we have CFC, and the CFC met what? June 11th. And there were two primary topics. One was a presentation of the get it right, the tentative preliminary budget. It was the next iteration of budget review. Okay. And the second item was one, oh, I'm sorry, there were three. The second item was just a review of the investment strategy. And, are we comfortable with what the investment strategy has been? And there was really no specific action to change anything there. The third item was meaty, which is a review or a presentation on debt options as we prepare to borrow money, our debt certificates in line with Project 2. And I'm going to give you the real Reader's Digest version of what happened, which is our financial advisor, Elizabeth Hennessy, presented two options. One was borrowing now in July, and the second one was borrowing in December. and presented the financial differences of them. And because of the reverse yield curves, she was encouraging we borrow immediately now. And the reason is that the district can actually earn interest at a higher rate than it's borrowing from, based, on these curves. And a word that I had never heard, so it's arbitrage. And there are regulations that do not, if you earn money that on federal borrowing, et cetera, you have to pay it in taxes. But because of what we're doing, which is spending it down within a 18 to 24 month, we are exempt from that. So it's totally permissible and it's encouraged. And there will be a financial presentation where we can make $500,000 more in interest by borrowing it now before we start paying the big bills 6 months from now. So that's the recommendation that was made by Elizabeth Hennessy. The CFC supported that recommendation. And so this one, Greg, you can talk,
It's coming to the board
it will come to the board
in summer.
on July 11th.
Yeah, we're aiming for as quick as July 11th. That's a little quick, but we're aiming for that conversation then, with the idea of potential August special meeting vote on it. That doesn't work, it'll be an August conversation, but we'll get done with July, August.
So that was the finance committee. Any questions? All right, CCB.
No meetings.
Were there any other groups that have meetings? I can more rather than go through them.
Not the ones I attend.
I just want to ask Lisa, have we, yeah,
We're gonna start over next year.
okay,
And next year we're hosting
great. But all that collaboration.
Early childhood.
graduation for early childhood.
So it's our turn,
Yes.
okay? So any other updates? I know we're in summer and so there's some degree of dormancy. We will, good.
Oak Park, I'm gonna talk about, just a little bit here in Oak Park, because it's been conversations that started there, but have kind of spilled over. There are several conversations that the village is having about, how they and our various agencies will be prepared to respond to the fact that down the road in mid-August, there's gonna be a Democratic National Convention going on. What does that mean for this community? What does that mean for our emergency responders and how they may or may not be taxed during this time? And what might that mean for public schools? A backdrop of that is that CPS has already declared that they will not be in school purposely. They won't be in session during the DNC to avoid any sort of challenges on that. To my knowledge, the other districts here, are going to continue with their schedules as planned. We have no recommendation coming to the board to change our calendar at all because of that. But it is something that is warranting a lot of conversation actually in the village. And so I would anticipate the board and the public getting more information about that in the next month plus as we get closer.
Okay. All right. So the last comment on this is that we have completed our school year, and so per our kind of cadence, we will be revisiting our roles and responsibilities on these various entities. So I just ask that before assignments are handed out, if anyone has any requests to either stay, get off, or any requests whatsoever, please send them my way. And, you know, I'd rather try to meet requests first before I assign. So if you have an interest, please share that, okay? And are there any future agenda items? Okay, so we will now move back into closed session.
So we recess open session.
We are recessing, we're going, it's our second recess.
Yes.
We're recessing open. And do we need a break or
Yeah. Taking a break.
we need a break? Okay,
I'll be quick.
we have a 4-minute break. We are reconvening open session at 9:21 PM Central Standard Time on this first day of summer. And we are returning to the consent agenda and item B. And I move to approve the personnel recommendations, including new hires, assignments, changes, summer hires, and resignations.
Second.
And is there any discussion? Seeing none, may we please have a roll call?
Ms. Williams Lee,
Sorry, yes.
Dr. Livingston,
Yes.
Dr. Maharaj,
Yes,
Mr. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Griffin,
Yes.
and Mr. Constantine.
Yes, the motion passes 6-0,
Yes.
and I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
good night.
Good night, everybody.